Hi HR Nation, welcome back to the HR Leaders Podcast, the show where we explore the future of work with industry experts and HR executives in the world's leading global brands. On today's show, we have a special guest. We're joined by Scott Johnson, who's a tech entrepreneur, angel investor, and chairman and founder of Workfront, and founder and CEO of Motivosity. Welcome to the show. How are you?
Good, Chris. Thank you. Glad to be here today.
Before we go any further, tell everyone a little bit about you personally and your journey to where we are now.
My journey really starts back. I graduated from university with a degree in Near Eastern Studies, which that's probably the furthest thing from technology you could find. If you were to search everything on the planet, that would be at the very far end. And so clearly I graduated and had no plan whatsoever.
Like most people.
Ended up starting an interactive agency at the time. The internet was brand new, and we were focused on doing web-based marketing solutions for customers. And as that company grew, I started needing to understand the business. What kind of work are we doing? How much work can we do? Where are we with client projects? How come we're doing web-based work and clients have to call on the phone and ask where we are? And all these problems really started bugging me. And I wasn't a programmer by trade. I spent a lot of time teaching myself how to write software. And I learned this programming language called Java. I had the big Thinking in Java book, and page 1, hello world. All right, here we go. And I started writing a piece of software that would help us as a company understand the work that people were doing and help us focus on the most important work and give visibility to our customers into what we were doing. And that took about 1.5 years. And when we rolled it out to our customers, we had some customers say, hey, this is pretty cool software. Where could we buy it? And to me, that's where sort of an entrepreneurial light went off. And I thought, well, let's try and make a company out of this. So did the bootstrap startup thing, started this company, which is known as Workfront. That company actually was recently acquired by Adobe in December. So grew it about 1,500 employees, and it's used by all the top name brands to manage work and help people be efficient and effective in the work that they do. Companies from Apple to Google to you name it. And so I stepped out of the day-to-day CEO role about 8 years ago. And when I did that, Workfront as a company, we were intent on being the best company to work for. We had unlimited PTO. We had all the benefits, 100% health insurance, the dental, vision, 401k. We had break rooms and game rooms and picnics and parties and events and company values that were geared around treating people with respect and making sure that ideas won. And we had service days and the works, right? Everything you can think of to take care of our people. And yet, after I left, and this is kind of an interesting tangent, that people always tell the CEO everything's great, right? When you're not CEO anymore, all of a sudden now you get privy to everything that's not great.
That's true, yeah.
And when I stepped out, some of my friends that I had worked with for so long started coming to me and saying things like, I'm not sure anybody really knows what I'm doing here. I'm not sure anybody really cares about what I'm doing here. It's starting to feel like kind of just a job. It doesn't feel special to me. I think I might look for another opportunity. And these are like the smartest, energetic people. And to me, that just really started bugging me. And the things that cause people to feel like that like the solution is small and simple. And yet companies aren't generally very good at doing those small, simple things that help people feel like they belong and that they're recognized and appreciated for what they do. So I started working on that. My thought was, if we could use technology to kind of operationalize all the little simple bits and pieces that together make a cohesive company and combat that feeling of just a job, like, I think that could work. So that was 7 years ago. Started Motivosity, and actually 8 years ago, and here we are. It's been a great journey. The good news is the theory panned out, and there are simple things that you actually can operationalize in a company that actually do make a difference. Mm-hmm. And so that's what we're focused on, and that's what we deliver to our customers now.
Yeah. So just briefly for everyone listening, just describe Motivosity for everyone who maybe not be aware of it.
Yeah. So Motivosity is a software platform. Our entire mission, reason for existing, is to help people be happier about being at work. And we know that what keeps people happy about being at work are basically the 5 big drivers of job satisfaction, which are to be recognized and appreciated for what you do, to have a constructive relationship with your boss or manager, to have this sense of belonging, this sense of camaraderie in the company or the organization you work in. And finally, that you recognize that there's meaning and value in the actual work that you're doing. And then number 5 is to get paid. So,
but importantly comes last.
Yeah, it's definitely in the number 5 spot. And, if you're underpaid, it becomes higher. So it can eliminate dissatisfaction, but it can't ever really generate job satisfaction. So our software platform has 4 products, and each of those products focus on aspects of those 4 top drivers of job satisfaction. So the products are called Connect, Recognize, Lead, and Listen. And you can probably guess what they do by the name. But
civic self-explanatory, yeah. You mentioned in a few of your interviews that in the early days, it was quite hard to get companies to pay for this type of solution, the sell.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe not so much now, because I think we're at a position where companies realize there's a real need, of course. But talk a bit more about that.
You are right, and I don't know where you came by that knowledge, but yes, it was tough. In fact, I used to joke around with my teammates there, like back in 2014, 15, 16, that we could make more money selling nuclear waste than we could selling our product. Like, it was tough, and it's because you have and no knock, but there's a management playbook that's been around for a long time. And if you subscribe to the 1980s management playbook, you have some definite ideas about how to recognize people and how to motivate people. And it all comes from that generation of status and success is the motivation in the workplace. If you look at like Maslow's hierarchy, right? And the very bottom of Maslow's hierarchy of human needs, it's safety, and you're providing food and shelter basically, and just providing for needs. And the next level up is to provide, to have some security and some status and comfort. And then the very top is being self-actualized. And if you look at generations of workers, they overlay right onto that. Like our grandparents, it was about food on the table. Yeah. If you could put food on the table, you can't ask for anything else in life. Mm-hmm. And then our parents, it was the 401k and the paid vacation and the second car and a little bit of status and some comfort. And so that was the whole motivation for being at work. So when the boss said, hey, here's a bonus, here's an MVP thing at the end of the year, like that was really motivating. And now you look at today's generation and they're, can I steal a word? Gobsmacked.
Yes, you can.
Management is gobsmacked that they're not motivated by those perks. And what they're motivated by is changing the world and these sort of higher level concepts. Mm-hmm. And so you overlay the old 1980s management playbook and it just kind of doesn't work. So we're trying to sell software to people who like totally don't even understand the motivation at all.
Yeah.
They're like, look, you get a paycheck. That's your thanks. Like, why would we pay extra money to appreciate people? And the trends are changing for sure.
Yeah. So do you think that then is because new generations are moving into these managerial leadership roles? Is it playing a big part of it?
Yes. And how many years did we hear the number one complaint from management being like, I don't understand these millennials. They're driving us crazy.
Yeah, you're right.
They don't complain about that so much anymore because they understand that there's a different thing now. There's a prediction of a turnover tsunami as soon as the pandemic is over. And one of the big drivers of that is people not just looking for a different job, but asking themselves why they want to work and then where they want to work. And I guess if you've been locked down for a year, you have time to think about, like, are the things that you've been pursuing, are they really the things that matter? And so big questioning going on right now around the why at work.
So I saw your Disrupt HR talk where you was on stage with with a colleague, I think it was, who was playing like a devil's advocate.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah. Okay.
But I found pretty funny.
Do your research, so I know at least 2 people have seen that. Awesome.
Yeah, no, but I really enjoyed it because it was really like it was a very good way of presenting, right? Because you comedy, I think, it plays a really great part of making people remember things, and obviously you was talking about the top-down approach rather than going outside in. And how companies traditionally focus on the outside layer, right? The business. Could you share a bit more about that thinking with our listeners? Because I think it's interesting.
Yeah. So I think that the title of that one is "Don't Be Delores." But so back to the days where it was impossible to sell our software. We had this persona, which we named Delores, which is the like zero fun, like the workplace is all about compliance and you need to ask permission for everything. And if you're not busy working, you're basically stealing from the company. And, this kind of really narrow mindset of what it means to be an employee. So I'm up there talking about things like being appreciated and being recognized. And Delores is saying, don't listen to him. Like, why are you even at this talk? Shouldn't you be at your desks? So yeah, she was a pretty funny character and she hit that one out of the park. But it's poking fun of the top-down mindset in companies that really thinks HR stands for humans are resources.
You talk about, I think, I don't know if this increased. I'd love to hear your opinion. Like culture responsible for 40% of your success. Do you think that's increased, that number?
I think it is increasing. Yes. Let's look at, for example, the idea that a lot of your friends are coming out of this funk from COVID and they're looking for they've rethought about their life and they're looking. What is it that's going to keep somebody at the company now? And really it boils down to loyalty, and loyalty is only driven by culture. It's not driven by anything else. Like, it's not driven by pay. It's not driven by stock options, or it is 100% about how they feel about the company itself, which is the intangibles that culture brings. So, it seems like at this point for companies to stay on top of turnover and have low turnover, culture is the X factor, and you've got to be able to deliver that remotely, which oftentimes, when we go into companies, and this was before the pandemic, we would go into companies and some of our competition is actually things like climbing walls and game rooms and
slides,
a kitchenette or a salad bar. Like I've joked before that we've actually lost to a salad bar as a sales pitch, which is kind of humbling. How'd your pitch go? Well, I lost to a salad bar.
Yeah.
But now companies can't, like, they were thinking, hey, a culture is salad bar, a culture is a cool break room, or what. And now culture with everybody out is, it has to go deeper than that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What would you say? Because I'm speaking to a number of CHROs recently, 10,000, 20,000 plus employees are saying, Chris, we're going to announce shortly, I'm not going to say who they are, that we're going to return to the workplace because our culture is an in-office culture. So that's why we're returning to the workplace and we're not going to do remote work. What do you think the impact will be on those companies that take that approach?
Honestly, I think people want to associate with others. Like, you don't want to be isolated. Nobody wants to be isolated, even if you're an introvert and you think that you're in heavenly bliss right now because you don't have to see anybody every day. You still, psychologically, mental health wise, you benefit from being around people. So I've seen companies that have hey, you can come in if you want, or you don't need to come in if you don't want. And a lot of people, virtually everybody, comes in at least a few days a week. Mm-hmm. And so when a company comes back and says, hey, we're going to mandate it, I don't know, maybe it'll be good, maybe not. I know a lot of commercial real estate people that would support that move.
Yeah, they'd be pretty happy. Yeah, I think the risk though, right, is that they're going to lose talent. So those people that do want options, that do want that flexibility, they now have those options because the world is literally their oyster. They can work remote from anywhere. Do you think that's the case? Yeah,
there would definitely be. Well, look, there are people. The real estate prices right now are skyrocketing in rural towns that are nice places to live. Mm-hmm. And it's because when people are asking themselves why about work, and it's why am I even working and what do I want out of life? There are people who would rather do what they do in front of a computer in a quaint little mountain town where they have hiking and mountain biking and all kinds of fresh air. So they're going to work at companies that afford that option. And for them, there's no going back. Yeah. I think the key thing though is flexibility, right? I do think it's pretty extreme for companies, and many of them that you know of, which we'll hear about in the next few weeks, are saying, we want everyone full-time back in the office. I'm pretty surprised that you probably won't be surprised that they're finance companies or from particular industries that we all know well of. That won't be surprising, but I think it is quite a bold move, especially after the last year, to say, everyone's back in the office. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how we navigate this change back. And if we all wake up like, hey, this last year plus has been just a bad dream and let's get on with it, or, how's it going to work? Yeah. How do your clients measure ROI? Because I'm sure, obviously, they want to work with you, you understand the value, but, there needs to be a clear ROI for them. Yeah, some of them measure it in turnover. I personally don't tend to measure look at turnover, because there is good turnover and there's bad turnover as well. And it's hard to associate just one factor with turnover, but that's one. General productivity is another one, but most of the time it's a softer ROI, and it happens around the conversation of, we have more positive energy around the office than we've ever had before. We have higher ENPS than we've ever had before. We have higher customer satisfaction than we've ever had before. And if you look at some of those things, like when employees are loyal and happy about the work they do, customer satisfaction goes up by 89%. So what's the ROI of that? Well, it's a little bit, 2 degrees removed, but when customers are happy, the company does better. Yeah, exactly. And I'm sure the engagement scores from their surveys, et cetera, are probably going to be a lot higher. Right. As well. So they have the data there. Have you seen a huge increase in interest over the last year as companies are now going remote? They can't rely on the cafeterias and the salad bars and everything else. We have. We're no Zoom for sure. But when COVID started, we've seen kind of three phases. And the first one was just blocking and tackling of getting people to work remotely. And that is things like your Zoom and dealing with computer equipment and networks and VPNs and things like that. We're into a phase now where all the blocking and tackling of remote work is done, and the honeymoon of remote work is over. And now companies are looking at the sustainability of remote work. And one of the sustainability questions is, how do we keep people happy and engaged when they're all over the place? How do we prevent, like I was talking to a guy just a couple of days ago who got hired at his new company last April. He's never met a single person in his company in person.
Yeah.
And so how do you help somebody like that really feel connected and like they're part of the team? And we're really well positioned for that. So we've seen a lot of interest increasing, and companies are now kind of the 2021 goal is, all right, now we've got the blocking and tackling of remote work. How do we have a work environment that's sustainable?
Well, look, before we wrap up, I want to jump into our quick fire round. I know you wasn't expecting this, so no one ever is, so I don't tell anyone about it. So I'm going to ask you 5 questions, and you have no longer than 5 or 30 seconds to give us some amazing answers. Are you ready?
Okay, I hope so.
What was the biggest challenge you faced on your entrepreneurial journey?
My biggest challenge to date has been bootstrapping a software startup where I had to take out a second mortgage to pay for employees, and then go without pay for a year and a half.
Wow. Okay, that's what it takes for everyone listening right now as well. What's the best piece of business advice you've ever received?
Best piece of business advice, I would have to say something I live by, which is keep it real. There's longer than a 30-second answer to that, but don't fall for the charade of being successful. Follow the path that actually really matters.
Love it. You've got a lot of books behind you. So I normally say, what's one book that you'd recommend to our audience? For maybe we could do a few more. What's some book that have made an impact on you that you'd recommend? Doesn't have to be HR, obviously, any book.
I'm going to recommend a book called Solve for Happy by Mo Gadot. And
why is that?
That book is a life changer. In my family, we actually have a motto that we live by forever. And it's a little comical. It says, lower your expectations until you're happy.
That does.
This is basically a book about that. And it's really awesome.
Love it. Love it. What are some online, you're a busy entrepreneur, juggling a million things. What are some of the online resources or apps that you use for productivity or to stay up to date with current events?
Oh man, I'm a bit of a news junkie, so I'm always digesting news from every source I possibly can. Outside of that, though, the standard tools, I don't have any secrets. We use Workfront to stay productive.
That's a good answer.
Slack, Zoom, use our own software. Yeah.
Amazing. And then how would your family and friends describe what you do for a living?
Oh man, they don't even know. My kids would describe me as a robot that works. Software guy is usually what I tell people. It just keeps it simple. Software guy.
And then the last one, what's one thing about your business moving forward that you're most excited about?
We released a new product called Lead in September, and I love the dynamic that it gives to managers with their teams. It has changed. I've managed people for 25 years, and it has changed my management game. And I'm super excited to see what it's going to do for managers.
Yeah, and we just started using it. So that's what I mentioned. And if everyone listening, by the way, I hope it's still available, but I believe you can download it. You can get started for free up to 10 employees, right?
Yes, free forever for up to 10. So if you have a small team or you're in a department somewhere and you want to go rogue because that performance management solution isn't cutting it, go ahead and go rogue because it'll be free.
Amazing. So if anyone listening, it's already in the description below. So go make sure you go check it out. There's no, I think it's free forever. No credit card required, if I remember correctly.
Right.
Well, so there's no reason not to try it. So make sure you guys check that out. Well, look, apart from that, before I let you go, if there's sort of one parting piece of advice, if you give to our listeners, what would that be? And then where's the best place for our listeners to connect with you if they want to say hello and reach out?
Great. So parting piece of advice would be keep your eye on what drives loyalty in the company. That's a big deal. And it's so much more fun to be part of an organization where you care about people than an organization where you care about just productivity and money. So that'd be my parting piece of advice. Hey, I'm easy to get a hold of. My email is just scott@motivosity.com. Love to connect with people. I'm also on LinkedIn.
Amazing. Well, look, thank you so much for taking the time out to join me. I appreciate it. Keep up the amazing work, and I look forward to chatting again soon.
Yeah, it was so nice talking to you, and I'm so grateful that I could hear your story earlier too. I hope there's a podcast about that somewhere.
I appreciate it. See ya. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.